Have you heard of MBTI or 16 personalities before? MBTI, also commonly referred to as 16 personalities on the internet, is a psychological theory that divides people's personalities into 16 types. These types are not taxonomized by personality traits, such as kind, smart, athletic, confident. This means person A, who is a knowledgeable theoretical physicist, and person B, who is a passionate athlete, can be the same type.
What truly distinguishes each MBTI type is their cognitive processes, or ways of paying attention. As humans, we pay attention to all different types of information. MBTI defines that there are a total of 8 basic ways in which we humans pay attention to matters. They're called cognitive functions. We're able to use all 8 functions. However, each of us have our own natural preferences for what we pay attention to the most. That difference is what constitutes MBTI types. MBTI types are not supposed to limit our potential in any way. Types do not determine who you are as a person. They only exist to understand parts of ourselves better so that we can achieve self-growth.
So just ignore the absurd stereotypes from the internet. As you probably guessed from the name 16 personalities, there are a total of 16 types in MBTI. However, each type shares the same primary or dominant cognitive function. In this presentation, we will be covering the 8 cognitive functions in detail, as well as which types use them as their dominant functions so that you will have a better understanding of which type you are at the end.
TI law, introverted thinking, versus TE pragmatism, extroverted thinking. TI or introverted thinking is a dominant function of ISTP and INTP. TI is a function that is concerned with internal logic, meaning TI relies on its own logical understanding when making decisions. TI wants to make sure if something logically makes sense or not by itself. TE, or extroverted thinking, is a dominant function of ESTJ and ENTJ. TE is a function that is concerned with external logic, which means TE relies on facts and data that is out there in the external world. Unlike TI, TE does not focus on understanding of information, but rather its utility. It wants to use logical facts in order to maximize efficiency and get things done.
Here's an example. Imagine a math class. The teacher in the class introduced a formula that can be used to solve a certain kind of problems. But the thing is that they didn't explain why the formula works. In this sort of situation, TE users, or students, would typically be fine with not knowing how the formula works, since what matters more to them is that utilizing external information, in this occasion the formula, to get external results, in this occasion, answers to the math problems, most effectively. TI users, or students, however, would more likely to want to know how the formula works before using it because their focus is on making sense of things, in this case the formula, internally.
FI authenticity, introverted feeling, versus FE social grace, extroverted feeling. FI, or introverted feeling, is a dominant function of ISFP and INFP. FI is a function that is concerned with internal feeling, meaning FI relies on their personal feelings, values, ethics, and preferences when making decisions. In contrast, FE, or extroverted feeling, is a dominant function of ESFJ and ENFJ. It is a function that is concerned with external feeling, meaning FE relies on emotions that can be observed externally, such as one's facial expressions, tones of voice, and general atmosphere of social groups when making decisions.
Here's an example. Imagine a person crying in front of you. If you were an FI user, you would more likely to try to understand how the person is feeling by putting yourself in their shoes. FI wants to analyze the feelings of themselves and others in depth. If you were an FE user, you would be more inclined to take the person's cry as an external indication that they are sad, and you will try to affect the emotion of the person by making some sort of gestures, such as changing the way you talk, smile, and so on. You would do this because FE is more focused on the outcomes that can be achieved by using emotions.
SI, homeostasis, introverted sensing, versus SE, action, extroverted sensing. SI, or introverted sensing, is a dominant function of ISFJ and ISTJ. SI is a function that is concerned with internal sensation, meaning SI perceives information based on how it physically makes them feel internally. It wants to know which objects make them feel comfortable and which ones don't. This makes SI seek homeostasis. SI has its own subjective preferences for its surroundings because of this. SE, or extroverted sensing, is a dominant function of ESFP and ESTP. SE is a function that is concerned with external sensation, meaning SE perceives information based on how impactful physical objects are in the external world. It sees what physical objects actually are instead of seeing how they make it feel. It doesn't hold a specific preference for sensation like SI does, and it likes to make actions and impact the world instead.
Here's an example. Imagine you're considering to purchase a new car. If you were an SI user, you'd be more likely to compare the car to the car you had in the past, trying to find similarities and differences. This is because SI already knows that their previous car made them feel comfortable. If you were an SE user, you would instead focus more on how the car looks from outside, its size, color, shape, and even its brand. This is due to the fact that SE puts importance on external impact, not subjective experience.
NI truth, introverted intuition, versus NE ideas, extroverted intuition. NI, or introverted intuition, is a dominant function of INFJ and INTJ. NI is a function that is concerned with internal abstraction, meaning NI perceives information from the outside world, but then forms its own subjective conclusions, or truths, internally based on the information acquired. NI creates its own visions for the future. NE, or extroverted intuition, is a dominant function of ENFP and ENTP. NE is a function that is concerned with external abstraction, meaning NE, instead of forming its own definite abstract conclusions like NI, gathers different theories and ideas from the outside world for the sake of novelty. And it usually does so by talking with others, finding new perspectives.
Here's a simple example. When thinking about what kind of life you want in the future, an NI user would more likely to come up with a singular answer, such as, I will become a doctor, whereas an NE user might prefer to explore other possibilities that are unrelated in their head, such as, I could see myself being a doctor, but also a historian, an actor, an astronaut. I'm going to be talking about my personal experience with MBTI. So my type is INTJ, and INTJ's dominant function is introverted intuition, or NI. And people with high introverted intuition generally have, like visions for like distant future and stuff. As an INTJ, I had a vision. Yeah, but the vision I had was almost like impossible to achieve. When I discovered MBTI, I just thought like it's so different from other personality tests, and it seems very valid, And so I discovered my type, INTJ, and I realized like, in order to get out of this idealistic, like the my state of like being so stuck in like my own fantasy, I needed to do something in reality, make actions, which is SC related, like SC's external sensation, so it looks outwardly. I decided to look things outwardly, basically, and MBTI isn't about like, making you like fit into like one box, or like to limit your growth in any ways. Like it is for self-growth, but like especially for me as an INTJ, like who usually gets stuck in like this and like my own fantasy, like it's really helpful to do it. I feel much more positive about like my life, and like I don't really pay attention to the future anymore in a good way. Of course I still care about it, like I still think about like how my life is going to be and stuff, but like it's not consuming like the fun time in the present either. And it's been helping me. So that's how MBTI is useful, and I hope you learned something. And if you're curious about like the theory more, and if you want to know my understanding of MBTI, then you can read like my blog here. Thank you so much for listening to this. Thank you.